From the very beginning, I had always seen myself as more than just an elder sister. I was her second mother, her best friend, her protector. When she was born, I was already old enough to remember the way her tiny fingers wrapped around mine, fragile and trusting. I made a silent promise that day that I would always be there for her, no matter what paths life would take us on. As we grew, life wasn't always easy. Our parents struggled financially during our teenage years, and I often took on responsibilities that weren't mine. I worked small part-time jobs to buy her school supplies, paid for her extracurricular activities, and gave up outings with friends so she could have the things she wanted. Every sacrifice felt worth it when I saw her smile. She was my little sister, and her happiness was my happiness. I still remember her first heartbreak. She had been crying in her room, curtains drawn, her favorite songs playing on repeat. I sat beside her, holding her, reminding her that she deserved better, that she was stronger than she realized. I made her laugh through tears that night, telling her one day she would meet someone who would see her for the beautiful soul she was. At that time, she hugged me tightly and whispered, "I don't know what I'd do without you." Those words had etched themselves deep in my heart. Years later, when she finally met someone she wanted to marry, I was overjoyed. She called me first, before even telling our parents. I can still hear the excitement in her voice when she said, "I think he's the one." Her happiness was all that mattered to me. But soon, the reality of wedding expenses set in. She was young, just starting her career, while I was more financially stable. I saw the worry in her eyes when she looked at wedding brochures, calculating costs, realizing that her dream wedding might be slipping away. And without hesitation, I said the words that seemed to lift the burden from her shoulders. "Don't worry about the money. I'll take care of it. You just enjoy your day." Her eyes had filled with tears, and she threw her arms around me. "You're the best sister anyone could ever ask for." From that moment on, the wedding became my project too. I booked the venue she had always dreamed of, the one with chandeliers sparkling like captured stars. I arranged for her dress fittings, accompanied her on endless shopping trips, and made sure the caterers had her favorite dishes on the menu. Every detail mattered to me because it mattered to her. There were nights when I would stay up late, scrolling through wedding inspiration boards, thinking of ways to make her day extra special. I wanted her to walk into her wedding and feel like a princess, not because I needed her gratitude, but because she deserved the best. I didn't notice the small things back then, the way she would sometimes avoid answering my questions about the wedding plans, or the quick glances between her and our parents when I offered to cover yet another expense. I brushed it off as stress, as the overwhelming pressure every bride-to-be faced. For me, this wedding wasn't just about her love story. It was about celebrating the bond we had built all our lives. A bond I thought was unshakable. A bond I believed would only grow stronger. Looking back now, I realize I was blind. I had mistaken silence for trust and avoidance for shyness. I didn't see the storm building in the shadows. Because at that time, in my heart, there was only love, hope, and the dream of sisterhood. The days leading up to the wedding were strangely quiet. I told myself it was because my sister was overwhelmed. After all, weddings were stressful. But somewhere deep inside, there was a restlessness in me that I couldn't quite name. Every time I asked about dates or details, she would brush me off with vague answers. "We're still finalizing things. The groom's family wants it small, so nothing's decided yet." I trusted her, as I always had. If she wanted to keep some things a surprise, I thought that was her right. Then one evening, as we sat in the living room, I casually asked the question that had been on my mind for weeks. "So, when's the big day? Have you finally decided?" She didn't look at me. She kept scrolling through her phone, and then with the same tone one would use to say they had dinner, she said words that shattered everything inside me. "Oh, we had it yesterday." For a moment I couldn't breathe. The air seemed to freeze around me. What did you say?" I whispered, convinced I had misheard. She sighed, as though I were being dramatic. The wedding, it was yesterday. Small ceremony. Nothing big. Nothing big. My heart pounded in my chest. I replayed the endless nights I had stayed awake, planning her perfect day. The thousands of dollars I had poured into the venue, the catering, the flowers, the dress fittings. And yet here I was, finding out like a stranger that it had all happened without me. Yesterday, I repeated, my voice breaking. You had your wedding yesterday, without me. She finally looked up, her eyes cold, detached. It was just easier this way. We didn't want too much drama. It's my wedding, not yours. Her words cut deeper than a knife. Drama, was that what she thought of me? After everything, the realization sank in slowly, painfully. My parents knew, our relatives knew, the groom's family knew. Everyone had been there, everyone except me. The sister who raised her, loved her, paid for her happiness. I stumbled to my room, every memory now tainted. The fitting sessions where she laughed, the phone calls where she said, I can't wait for you to see me in my dress. All of it lies. She had played me like a fool, using me to fund a day I wasn't even worthy of attending. That night, I cried until I had no tears left. The kind of crying that makes your chest ache and your throat burn. Betrayal doesn't just hurt. It hollows you out, makes you question your very existence. In the silence of my room, I realized something I had never dared to think before. I wasn't her sister in her eyes. I was her convenience, her safety net, her open wallet, and for the first time in my life, I wished I had never said yes. The next morning, my eyes were swollen from crying, but the fire inside me burned brighter than the pain. I needed answers. I couldn't let this betrayal pass like some misunderstanding. My sister owed me the truth, every ugly piece of it. I walked into the kitchen where she sat, sipping tea as though nothing had happened. My parents were there too, speaking in hushed tones that stopped the second I entered. The silence was suffocating. Why? My voice cracked, but my eyes didn't waver. Why would you hide your wedding from me? After everything I did for you, why? My sister glanced at me, irritation flashing in her eyes. Don't make this about you. It was my wedding, not yours. Her words stung like acid. Not about me. I stepped closer, my hands trembling. I paid for your dress, I booked your venue. I sat with you for hours, making sure every detail was perfect, and you didn't even invite me. She rolled her eyes, as if my pain was nothing but drama. We wanted it small, private. You would have made it bigger than it needed to be. You always want control. Control. That was her excuse. My heart thudded painfully. I had given her everything out of love, not control. Yet here she was, twisting my sacrifices into chains. I turned to my parents, desperate for some sign of support, some shred of love. You knew, my voice broke. You both knew and didn't tell me. My father avoided my eyes. My mother sighed heavily and said, we didn't want to upset you. It was her choice. A wedding should be about the bride, not the sister. The words shattered me. They weren't just her betrayal anymore. They were all in on it. My family, the people I had trusted most, had deliberately cut me out of one of the most important days of her life. Upset me, I whispered. Do you even understand what you've done? You've made me feel like I don't belong in this family at all. My sister scoffed, setting her teacup down with a clink. You're being dramatic. You'll get over it. That was it, the final straw. Her cruelty was casual, practiced. She didn't care that she had destroyed me. She didn't care that she had turned years of sisterhood into ashes. I went to my room, locked the door, and collapsed onto my bed. My body shook with rage and grief. Every sacrifice I had made replayed in my mind like a cruel movie. The nights I worked extra shifts so she could have new books, the vacations I skipped so she could go on school trips, the times I held her hand through heartbreaks, and now, when it was her turn to honor me with a single seat at her wedding, she had decided I wasn't worthy. The pain gnawed at me, but beneath it, something else stirred. Something cold, sharp, and determined. If she thought I would simply get over this, she was wrong. This wasn't the end of the story. This was the beginning of my transformation. The sister they betrayed was gone. The woman who would rise from this betrayal would not be silent. For days, I walked around like a ghost in my own home. The silence between us was louder than any scream. My sister avoided my eyes, my parents pretended everything was normal, and I carried the weight of betrayal like a stone in my chest. But grief has a strange way of changing shape. Slowly, my tears dried, and in their place came clarity. If they thought I would stay broken, they didn't know me at all. I had loved them with all I had, but they had turned that love into weakness. So I decided to give them what they deserved, not rage, not begging, something colder, something final. The wedding bills were still in my name. The venue deposit, the catering balance, the florist's final payment, all of it had been secured under me because I trusted her. And trust, I realized, was my biggest mistake. I called each vendor one by one. Cancel everything. I said calmly, if services have already been provided, send the bill directly to the bride and groom. I will not be covering any further costs. Their panic began within hours. My sister stormed into my room, her face flushed with anger. How could you do this? They're asking us for thousands we don't have. I looked up from my book, calm as a still lake. Oh, I thought it was your wedding, not mine. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. She had no words because she knew exactly what I was doing. The honeymoon I had secretly planned as a surprise. Cancelled the designer jewelry I had put on hold for her, returned. Every last thread of my support unraveled before her eyes. My parents pleaded, saying, she's your sister. You can't just abandon her like this. I smiled bitterly. Funny, isn't it? That's exactly what you all did to me. The cracks in their perfect little celebration spread quickly. Vendors demanded money, relatives gossiped about the bride who excluded her sister, and the groom's family began questioning what kind of people they had married into. But I didn't gloat. Revenge for me wasn't about humiliating her in public. It was about reclaiming myself, about showing her, and everyone, that I was no one's fool anymore. I focused on me. The money I had saved for her big day, I redirected into my own dreams. I signed up for courses I had postponed for years. I traveled. I treated myself to the things I had always sacrificed. For once, I poured into myself the love I had wasted on others. Months later, when the shine of her rushed wedding had faded and the weight of unpaid bills pressed on her, she came to me. Her voice cracked, her eyes finally wet with real tears. I need your help, please. I looked at her, feeling nothing but a cool, detached pity. And with a calmness she didn't deserve, I said, oh, I had a sister once yesterday. Her face fell, and in that moment, I knew she finally understood. Revenge hadn't been about making her suffer. It had been about setting myself free, and I was free, stronger, wiser, untouchable. The sister they betrayed was gone forever.